Okay, good morning. I look like I just got out of bed, and it's actually because I did just get out of bed. I have been meandering on planes. I didn't even do my hair. I've been meandering on planes, getting from Costa Rica to home to Albuquerque. My beloved C and Alfie picked me up last night. But ever since I wrote You as the Mind of Creation, well, actually, even before that, I've been struggling with um, kind of how I want to be in time, and 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 not so much how I want to be in time, but kind of what is it I'm struggling with? That's really the way we're talking about it. So, You as the Mind of Creation came out, and Melissa and I were trying to figure out um, how I could just be available because it's easy in the community of the cultural wisdom community, the field of Tantra Mat, because there's a bunch of us on WhatsApp thread, there are a bunch of us engaging in things. But when you're shifting, when reality is shifting, when the sense of existence is shifting, you can't teach something because you're living something. You're not, I mean, you can teach certain things like survival, recovery, new understandings, but the real meat in a Renaissance period is when you're living something. So this is just I just want to capture it because I obviously want to send it out to the people that have been trying to explore how do we as a wisdom culture includes all of us, not just those of us that are uh, together in time in a particular vernacular. But so it all started when Melissa, uh, my Missy B, said, "We just got to give you office hours," and so people that cross my path or we cross each other's paths, uh, you just know what hours I'm in, basically. And so I don't know why it started this whole dream sequence last night, but I also was trying to write something. I had done an observing on a creation exercise, and I'm writing 10 years later, 2023, You as the Language of Creation. And so I was writing this chapter about, well, what if what's emerged, it's all these years, all these centuries of having to deal with trauma and having to deal with history repeating itself and having to deal with this sense of identity that it just has to cope with life and sort of like the turtle digging a hole to get her eggs down in the sand and get it covered before the vultures can eat them, and so I was working on this paragraph or this section. If you go to language creation, the original design, I think it's called, and you go to where it says uh, that something happened a long time ago, humanity became traumatized, and so we went dormant, we went numb. It was in that section, and so I was messing about on the plane, just writing spontaneous thinking, spontaneous thoughts. And the first thing I noticed was that we have an either or thinking. I'm either in this paradigm or I'm in that paradigm. I'm either good or I'm bad, that it's just almost impossible to uh, get our head out of it because our head's been basically stuck in it for a long time. But then something happens, something in my dreams, in my dreaming. Um, well, first of all, I'm on the plane or catching planes, from what was it, 11:45 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. All that time, but I kept saying, okay, so I'm just going to get a group of people together, and we just need to talk it out. We need to just talk it out in language like I used to do theater. And how you do theater is you sit down, or a musician, you sit down and you sculpt the words and you figure out how the tune fits with the like watch Ed Sheeran's uh, on, I think it's on Hulu, documentary. He sits down and they work it out till the resonance or the sound and the words fit until they until they sequence right together and it hits pay dirt. It hits a way for people to register something that you can't register through trying to explain what you think something is, and then trying to explain how what you're talking about is different. So I was struggling with this section I'd written, and I thought, I just need to. I'll get Janice, she's theater. I'll get Deb, she's a therapist. I'll get C, who's an empath, and Melissa, who's a writer and has been, working with me in my writing, and others, and we'll just sit down and we'll hash it out till we get the language accurate, till we're not looking at either or, we're just saying there's something that many of us are present to, and this includes you. It's not I think I ended up on the Creative World channel. I meant to end up on the Language Creation channel, but that's where we go. Consciousness Institute channel, sorry. But obviously, I'm where I am. But so this was just really milling around in my brain. How do we solve this dilemma that we're present to something, and at the very same time we have to stream, as like when you stream spaghetti. What do you call that? When you throw spaghetti through and the water comes out, so you're left with the spaghetti. How do we strain? How do we drain this or strain this until we have some accuracy in language, some accuracy in perception? And so what happened was I went, oh my God. I woke up. I thought I was waking up at 2 a.m. I was just woke up and C's out here with Alfie, and it's 6 a.m. in the morning. However, I am going back to bed. I've been sleeping since 2, so I'm going to go back to bed, but I wanted to capture this. And so I realized all of a sudden this language came through to me. And the sort of thing Melissa or Missy B has been, really just incredible, focused, piercing conversations with me that's getting my brain to work in how do we organize ourselves in a non-learning manner? How do we organize ourselves in a Renaissance-oriented manner? How do I, being a responsible person who has been hanging out with humanity since she was 19 years old, how do I position myself in such a way, kind of like I'm standing in the street or I'm sitting in the cafe and people can just sit down, or we can just have conversations. That's what we do in Create a World. You can run into each other, and because it isn't located in my intelligence, although it is some of it, it isn't located in how we've been taught in the old paradigm, the person who has the answers, and then you give them the answers. No, we're living something. When you're living something, it's rising everywhere. It's rising like a new cultural wisdom community, and a community of humanity that's beginning to awaken into something that we have no organizing principles around. We don't know quite how it works. We don't know quite what it is. We just know that we're experiencing things newly in ways that we can't explain. That makes sense, right? And so I woke. I was sleeping, and I went. Three things happened, and it's really what I'm going to toss out there. I I really am only interested in the people that notice their thought plane and their experiential pain, and they're the important ones. Sense of self seems to be shifting out of trauma centricity. Doesn't mean you're not traumatized. In a matter of fact, you can end up more traumatized because you're not dumbed down, you're not desensitized, your physical body is beginning not to want to exist in trauma anymore. So your warning signals are much stronger, which is in that chapter, um, in that write-up in the book Language of Creation, about how it happened. We have this amazing survival system. You're looking at mine, and it shuts down when it can't tolerate something. It shuts down when it can't be with something, but it doesn't shut down and go away. It shuts down until the conditions change, and when the conditions change, the systems inside that have gone dormant or dumbed down or become armored or uh, dormant till they can rise. And so I'm thinking all this, and then my voice, the voice that talks to me. I'm not saying it's my personal possession; it's my voice that comes to me from consciousness. Says the new territory we're in time is now. Something's rising in the territory of now. So, in the territory of now, we wouldn't have any learning. We would be living something or experiencing something. We would not be, we would not have any awareness of how the past is influenced in the future because we wouldn't be in linear time. We'd be in the territory of now, which is nonlinear. Then I started thinking about my beautiful Nassim Harriman, and I was thinking, because he's really the leading edge of science. He's a miracle man, and his friends, my friends, my friends for me. You have to ask him if I'm their friend. That we haven't talked in a long time. Marshall Lefferts, and this, they're in science. But then my mind, in my sleep state, was saying, well, science science is not what I'm in, although I'm really pretty brilliant in comprehending science. But I once said to Richard Waterburn, I don't think it's in my, I think it might be in my book, An Irish Tale of a Modern Mystic. But it was raining, pitching rain in Cork, and Richard's a brilliant, brilliant man also. So he was telling me all these new theories and understandings of how reality works. And I just went ape. And I said, yeah, but we don't know how to recognize that we're that. Something happened in our consciousness that that only has us have science explaining things, great meta science. That's what the creation templates are. They're a meta science based on the golden mean. But I kept thinking, okay, there are two emergent things going on. Three now, I think. One emergent thing is that even though everything looks like we're still dealing with trauma, there's an intolerance in the emotional, physical, mental, sentient systems, like they don't want to be dumbed down anymore. They don't want to be dormant anymore. They don't want to be desensitized anymore. Therefore, whether our present personalities like it or not, they're not living there anymore. They're living somewhere else, which is the story I'm trying to unpack and unfold in language, which is just bloody hard at the moment, um, is all about I just lived something over about a 4-day period, but every time I go to talk it gets folded into the paradigm of thought and the system of reality we've accepted as real. And it doesn't let me actually be able to communicate and articulate cognitively what really, really happened, because I really, really lived it. And it was felt really, and it was really, really something I want, like a play or a piece of music. I want to be able to transfer. But if we're all sitting and learning, we can't hear me because we're all in a kind of a new learning, which is living in a territory of now, not living in a territory of past or future. Then I realized that for years, I mean, I've been doing this gig of life since I was 19 with people. And I realized, oh my God, I've been talking about this for years. And what I kept saying is that we've moved from trauma centricity to a basic question: who am I? And who am I is the um, exploration of self. What am I? Who am I? Who am I with life? Who am I to life? Who am I with myself? Who am I to myself? Who am I with others? And who am I to others? So we're moving from science to self, being self aware, able to self recognize. And we today, August 16th, 2023, this is what my guides and the greater territories of consciousness that I get tumbled around in have been explaining and showing me and communicating to me for 42 years that we have moved into we moved into the territory of now, in the territory of the rising, the emergence of self. So then I could really see, I'm going to talk to Missy B about it, but I could really see that that's the office hours thing she was talking about, not to diverge, but it's actually important because how many of you are having trouble writing a book or trying to figure out how you're going to engage with human beings, and because you can't do it in the old model anymore. It's like this sort of free to be me thing going on, and something deep inside the self, we're coining that phrase as a placeholder right now, uh, rising in such a manner that it can't it can't try to teach. It can't try. It has to be there with you. That aspect of ourselves of being with another in the field of creation, exploring something in such a manner that we can start to live something that actually is occurring in the consciousness of creation, that we call human being, where creation reflects upon itself, gaining knowledge and recognition of itself and its multidimensional, multi-intelligent, multi-sensory system we often refer to as a human being. So Missy B and I'll talk, and we'll figure out what we call in the old paradigm office hours. But I began to think it like, it may even be a new model for others too. I was thinking that maybe because I have these explosions, not something, and this is why we're struggling with uh, these new books that we're doing, um, getting all the data out before I live in another territory of timeless time without not needing a body. But not to have people learn, but as the self rises, as you as yourself, this meta self that goes beyond trauma centricity, that is, and I've said it for years, the self is rising. The original nature of your original design as a self is rising, independent of your trauma centric personality. And I just lived that for about 5 days. And I'm going to work my butt off to try to get that into language, an articulate way, not to have you understand and learn, but like music or good theater, it triggers something in you that makes you self aware. Anyway, it's just great. And I don't need a following, I need to be sitting on the road like an intersection, so that when the flow of the time of now and the flow of the rise of the self, it isn't little stick figures wandering around trying to stick information inside them. It's these beautiful, exquisite, flowing, synchronically oriented human beings that end up in the right place at the right time, doing what's theirs to do when it's theirs to do, and being what's theirs to be when it's theirs to be, and showing up on behalf of all life, self, and others when the consciousness of the collective beauty of a human being is rising where we're standing. Okay, that's it. 18 minutes at 43, 44, 45, 46 seconds, and I'm going back to bed. Love you all. Take care.